How are you all? Thanks for coming bright and early on this morning. I'm Andrew Stalbo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Seriously. We set up the business just over 5 years ago, and we've been making some really nice progress. And I'm going to talk today a little bit about how we really approached the community that we've been building around our first property, which is called Best Fiends, and how we thought about the amazing opportunity we have to engage our players and fan base and audience, both in and outside of the game, as we look to build a business that created an amazing IP through mobile games. We've learned many lessons along the way as we've built our community out. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you all some of the lessons we've learned and some tips and tricks which hopefully will be helpful to you as you think about doing the same kind of things. So, like many of you, we started as a really small company with a vision to challenge the way entertainment and game brands were built, created, and distributed. Effectively, the first ever deck we wrote as we looked to raise a little bit of seed capital to get going was entitled Building the Pixar of Mobile. And we've stayed true to our value system, which is to really care about the IP and the creativity and the story and the narrative, as well as building out a brilliant game as a platform to reach a wonderful audience. We started small and have built it up step by step by step. And just so you guys know, Best Fiends is now a $120 million run rate business that is starting to cut through purely because we have a differentiated approach to the way we approach our audience and we approach our creativity. We have a very technical creative process, as you can see. This is exactly what we went through as we started building out our characters, our story, and our world. And really tried to kind of create an experience that could differentiate and feel very special. As a small company launching a new product focused on mobile, we had a very small marketing budget. We actually had a $200,000 marketing budget that had to last for the first 6 weeks of our launch. Our competitors in the same mobile game vertical as us, which is the puzzle game category, were spending $200,000 in about 3 hours. So we had to find a really interesting way to cut through that was not reliant on cash. And so we asked the CMOs of other mobile game companies what was working well for them as they looked to acquire new players and new users. And they all said Facebook, Google, Performance Ad Network, X and Y. And then we said, what wasn't working for you for acquisition? And they all said YouTube. So we thought, that seems like a good opportunity for us as we look to build out a brand and a world to find some great influential people that could promote our experience to their audience. And we wondered if, A, that would be a platform where we could start building our business from, introduce our brand to a wide audience, but also make it pay back in terms of the ad dollars that we invested. And we learned a ton from influencers, how they built up their own communities and really connected with their audience directly. We thought there'd be a load of lessons there for us, so we were really keen to engage with them. I used to work 7 years ago now, for 20th Century Fox, representing their TV and film assets. And back in those days, all the content creators were creating content that would then get distributed through other people's platforms. So Gracie Films, makers of The Simpsons, would make a wonderful TV show, and then the content goes through the Fox TV network or goes through Sky One. The makers of Avatar would create an amazing movie and would distribute it through a movie theater or through a DVD at Walmart or through somebody else's online store. Suddenly mobile came along, and it just seemed to us that there was a brilliant opportunity for a brand to get directly connected to the audience and be able to leverage the network effect of that direct connection. And actually, all of our relationships with the brands that we love have changed over the last few years because we expect a two-way dialogue between the brands we love and us. So we wondered if we could take some of those learnings and build a brand and a business built on that two-way relationship. So we started developing an IP that had great characters, great comedy, great conflict. We built it on the back of a story that was very authentic, and to us, we developed the story that my co-founder Petri Yarvaletto used to tell to his children, and developed it out into a really great story that could really kind of be built out. But at the core of everything we do, we integrate the community in our experience. So much so that if you play the Best Fiends game now, there's loads of places where we let you sign up to follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube. We even integrate our YouTube videos right into the heart of the experience. So we thought about the answers to the question, kind of what are the key things we've learned as we've tried to build out our community, and there are 8 things that we'll take you through in a little bit more detail as we share with you some of our core learnings as we've looked to build out the Best Fiends business directly connected. So number 1, absolutely core, if you care about your audience, then your community management and customer support is the front line of marketing, right? We are all now no longer in the product development business. We're all in the live service business. What that means is that we care as much about retention and re-engagement as we do about acquisition. In many ways, acquisition is so expensive now that you really have to invest into the retention and re-engagement if you're going to effectively be able to build a business. We respond to every single tweet, every single Facebook post, every single email. We respond to all the negative and positive reviews, and we try and make sure that we're there for our community and they can see that we care. There's quite a few fan communities that have also grown as we've built out the Best Fiends business that we don't operate and control. But when people write to us and tell us about kind of tough experiences that they've had, we always try and respond to it. We always try and respond to that. The one thing we've learned as we look to build out our IP, when looking at other successful properties, and my favorite entertainment properties of all time are Indiana Jones, Star Wars, The Godfather. One of the greatest things when you become a real fan of an entertainment experience, be it a game or a television show or a film or music, is people love going behind the scenes. I love understanding all the thought and care and craft that's gone into creating an experience. And we all have to be absolutely brilliant if we're going to create experiences that can compete with Facebook, email, Twitter, Candy Crush, Clash Royale, Fortnite, phone calls. We're on the most competitive media platform in the world, and we have to be brilliant creatively, so it's really important that we share that creative experience in a really credible way with our audience as we scale it up. So every time we do new music, an update, a new game, when we create different elements in our world, we look to share as much as possible of that creative process with our audience, and they love it and appreciate it. it's, one of the great things, we talked about the fact that we're in the live service business. We really think about the 12 to 14 updates that we do a year for Best Fiends as marketing opportunities, but they're not just acquisition opportunities, they're re-engagement opportunities too. So treat every update like it's a great marketing opportunity to re-engage and acquire. I'll give you a couple of examples of things we do that I think are easily replicatable. We noticed that Star Wars do a monthly update on their Facebook channel where they share all the new things going on in the world. Well, every update we've got coming out, we've got new animations, we've got new levels, we've got new characters. So we thought that was a really great way to kind of always share with our audience the latest things we do. So we created the Best Fiends show, turned it into a format for our YouTube channel. And now every month when we do an update, we roll that out. And it's a brilliant way to kind of engage the audience. The other thing we do is, as I mentioned before, is integrate the YouTube channel and video content right inside the game experience. What you'll often find on your games is people are going from game to YouTube to try and kind of figure out how to get through a level or how to kind of achieve something in the game. They're switching between the two anyway, so make the experience as seamless as possible as you build that out. Your biggest fans are obviously amazing. It's really important to not just kind of create brilliant experiences for them inside your own game or your own media platform, but understand what they like and then embrace that back. One of the things we noticed was that a lot of our fan base really enjoyed cooking videos, cooking challenges, DIY. So we took our brand and IP and created that kind of content for them, and they really love it, and they're super thoughtful about kind of following our example and creating their own versions of food or DIY using our characters. The other thing we found our audience love, and I guarantee yours do, is particularly when they find new games and new experiences that they're passionate about, they love that feeling of community. They feel very special that they found something first. And so we're always encouraging our audience to tell us where they came from, how they found out about the game, what was special about it. It's a really great way to engage them and get them to feel that they're part of something super special, which they totally are. One day, I try and lead by example and work, and I often kind of go into Twitter or Facebook and respond to a lot of the feedback we get. It's really interesting to kind of find out what your audience really think about the experiences you're building. And one day, I got a tweet from a very nice lady who wrote to me and said, "I'm getting married because of Best Fiends." And I was like, no way. And she was like, yeah. I was in a smoky Parisian cafe near the River Seine. It was 11 o'clock at night. My phone was running out of battery. I was playing the game, and a guy walked into the restaurant, into the cafe, and he asked me out. And she said, I knew him about 5 years before, but he asked me out. And I said, you can go out with me, but you've got to beat this level of Best Fiends. And he did, he beat it. They went out on a date, and then they played Best Fiends and kind of raced each other in the game. But the other thing they did was they went and got married. And I was like, that's amazing. And she goes, if it wasn't for Best Fiends, this might not have happened. So I asked her, would you be okay if we send a camera crew to your wedding? Like, we'd love to kind of capture that. And she said, yeah, fantastic. So we did, and we created a video, and we shared it with our community. And people in our game spend 45 minutes a day inside the experience. It's very meaningful for them. And it was brilliant to be able to kind of show our audience like how it really connected there. We had another example that was pretty crazy. We heard from a couple where the gentleman got cancer, and he ended up having to go into isolation as he was being treated for it. And he couldn't be in the same room as his wife. And so they were looking for things to do together, and they found Best Fiends, and they competed on that for a week while he was in isolation. And they really had a brilliant experience. If you've played Best Fiends, it's super thoughtful. You have to be a little bit strategic and It's a really fun puzzle game to play. And so they had a really great experience on it. And we said, hey, can we make a video of like what happened? And he basically told this incredibly emotional story about how it was the doctor, his religion, his amazing wife, and Best Fiends really helped him through a kind of really difficult time. So, when you hear those stories, I think it's brilliant to embrace them and share them right back into the community. You all care. We all care massively about creating rich, brilliant experiences. And it's great to share the impacts that you can have on people's lives. When we set the company up, one of the things we said to ourselves was that we really want to make sure that we do the right thing. So our business model is effectively all about long-term retention and engagement. If you care about building an intellectual property, actually what you're really saying is, I'm investing into this thing over the long term. And if you care about certain game genres, like we obviously come from the puzzle genre, actually your whole business model is predicated on being able to attract players and build out play patterns that can last for the very long term. So we've always said to ourselves, don't focus on monetization, focus on retention and engagement. And as part of that, we said to ourselves, there's a very easy kind of guiding principle, which is do the right thing. That's like right at the heart of our company culture, DNA. Do the right thing. The decisions you make, do the right thing. Put the audience experience first. So when we started, one of the things we did was we partnered with a malaria charity, anti-malaria charity called Malaria No More. We had a mosquito character in our game called Edward, who gave up coconut water, who gave up drinking blood, and instead drinks coconut water from a scuba tank on his back. And he became the mascot for Malaria No More. And we drive a whole load of traffic to a Malaria No More Best Fiends co-branded page where Edward is their mascot. And we drove so many people that actually we got feedback that we drove more people than their partnership with American Idol back in the day. So I think it's really important to kind of do really nice things. It shows your audience that you care, and you just got to do it in an authentic way that fits in nicely with your IP. There's another wonderful charity out there that we support called Special Effect that create specialized gaming equipment for gamers that are disabled. And we've been lucky enough to work with them and support that in a meaningful way too. I think it's a great thing to do. And the key to it is do it right from launch and build into it and make it part of your narrative. And then influencers are amazing. It's obvious, right? People have always used, companies and brands have always used celebrity endorsers to kind of promote their own products. But now with YouTube and Twitter and social media, it's really, really great to work with influencers that are true and authentic to kind of your brand and world. What we learned was take it one step further. And don't just do influencer deals where you're paying for kind of an endorsement, but see if there's a brilliant way you can bring them back into your game experience and do it really kind of thoughtfully and different. And I think if you're thoughtful about influencers that are a great fit, you can find a price that works for you and for your business model, and then you can integrate it in a smart, thoughtful way. You'll see multiple engagement levels beyond your expectations. That's definitely been the case for us. It's a very, very competitive landscape out there, not just in terms of kind of getting distribution and engagement, but also in terms of cutting through in your marketing. We're all distracted massively by everything going on our phone. So one of the things that we do to try and kind of connect through that is when you have an update or when you have a story that you're telling or when you're launching a new animation or there's something new you're doing, connect the dots. So an example of how we do that is when we launched an animation around our character called Howie, who's a wizard lizard, and we did an animation all about how he explained to his fellow fiend friends how he got his special powers, and they thought he was telling a story about how he got his wizarding powers, but he thought his special powers were his amazing British accent. So he kind of told this story. And so we took that little narrative and from an animation that our audience really enjoyed, and then we took that narrative and we integrated it into our game, and we had in-game events tied to that theme. We went behind the scenes on the content creation process of making that animation. We used Howie in all of our kind of marketing creatives to really push that. Everything in our channels went, all our different kind of social media channels went Howie branded. So it's really important to kind of really connect the dots so that when people kind of come into your experience, see what you're talking about in your community, that you're being very thoughtful about how you leverage the assets that you're creating. And then I'd say, one of the most important things you do when you set up your community channels, and Phil, who runs marketing, and he's over there in the audience, we really started with building out those channels individually, but we committed to them. So the worst thing you can do is build out your community channel and then there's no content in there. You have to commit, you have to create great content for it, you have to be thoughtful about what the right content is for each different platform. And we've gradually built up our audience on each of those platforms, and it really kind of supports the in-app experience too. So we actually have about 8% of our, 7 people, so we're only 85 people, so 8%, 7 people are completely dedicated to managing the community around the kind of Best Fiends universe, and it makes a massive difference that everybody knows that we prioritize it and that we totally care. So anyway, I hope those lessons on building out a community that we've learned are interesting and useful to you guys. I'm seeing I've got about 5 minutes left, so totally happy to take any questions, and thank you for listening. All right, I guess we answered everything there. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, and any questions, you can feel free to catch me afterwards or send me an email, andrew@seriously.com. Nice to meet you all.